All right, peace and blessings. It's Saturday, February the 10th, the year 2018. We are preparing to get ready to do a brake job on the rear drums of this 1989 Chevrolet. I believe it's a C3500. It's got the 454 engine and the floating axle. The drums are absolutely massive, and don't do like I did. I left this out last night and it drizzled just a little bit and water got all down in there, and I don't like that at all. This is the bearings. And you got your floating axle there, so I'm going to be packing that thing with grease, and I'm hoping it dries out. If I had to do it again, I would have taken this thing in the garage and put some towels over it. I made a mistake there, but I hope it doesn't cost me. I think I'm going to be able to reuse that drum. Those drums are incredibly expensive. But getting prepared for this thing, of course I'm going to be taking all the old parts off, and as you can tell, it is absolutely gunked up with brake fluid and stuff over the years, and I'll have to remember how all this stuff goes back together. So I do recommend you take a picture, a photo of this, so you can remember where all of these parts go back. You'll want your box of tools so you don't lose your tools and they get put out all over the place. You'll want some sort of brush, so when you start spraying your brake fluid, you can brush the brake fluid real good. This is AutoZone brake cleaner, but if you can find cheaper version, you know, get whatever you like. And then you'll want, this is where I kept the, I call it a gasket, but it's that round thing there. That's very important to keep your axle locked in place, and that appears to be another ball bearing gear, and I call that a keepway. And I don't know if mine's too short, but it took tweezers to get mine out. And then you'll want a box. When you pull these old parts off, you'll put the old parts in a box so you can keep them all together. And then you'll want gloves. You do not want to do this with your bare hands. So, you know, these are like rubber gloves. I'm going to use these over here, but if these break on me or get too bad, I'll use some of these. But your bare hands will get so dirty, it'll be just amazingly dirty. So you don't want to be using your bare hands. You'll want to get some gloves. There was gear oil that came out of this pipe here, and you'll want to keep this thing full of gear oil for your axle. So I got STP 80W90. You'll want some brake fluid. When you're done, you got to breathe the brakes. Keep your bolts and nuts. There's lots of them. I'll probably throw those in that box before it's all over with. And I got a bag of springs. Now this thing comes with a spring kit, which I bought, which is your keeper springs and all your springs that hold your pads in place. They also sell a pro kit for like more around $35 that has the adjusters, but I think I can get away with using the old adjusters. I'm just going to clean them up, but I did want new springs. That cost me about $10. Keep in mind, if I was to take this to a shop and ask them to give me a brake job, I mean, that brake job would go for $400, $500, $600. I'm not sure how much they charge me. I don't even know, but I guarantee you all of these parts together cost me around $85, and so I feel like I'm getting a pretty good deal. I'm also learned my lesson from the last time I did this. I'm going to change the wheel assembly, the wheel cylinder, so that's that right there. I got two of those. Those were about $11 each, but you don't want to go through all the trouble of replacing the shoes and not replace the wheel cylinder. So go ahead and get your wheel cylinder for each side, which I did, and then you'll want a gasket. This gasket's going to sit for your axle, and it's called a rear axle flange. And you'll want two of those, one for each side, and then you buy your shoes. The shoes cost me $28.99, and of course you got four of them, two on each side. And so I'm prepared to get started on my replacing this. I'll try to set the camera up, and then I'll speed it up, and it's going to take me a while. The only challenge I got today is it's very cold again. And I just hate working in the cold weather, but even more than the cold is it's drizzling. It could drizzle, and I do not want to be working on this brakes if it starts raining on me. So we'll see how that goes. If it starts getting too bad, I'll cut it off, and we'll do it later on today or tomorrow. But we'll get as far as we can. God bless you guys. Have a great day, and we'll go on time lapse. All right, peace and blessings. Saturday, February the 10th, the year 2018. This is a time lapse. Took me 22 minutes. Let me turn the volume down. Took me about 22 minutes to take off all the old brake parts. As I started, all the springs are really, really tight. And so I try to bring in the adjuster at the bottom to make the shoes not so far apart and to loosen up the tension on the springs, I eventually went with the decision to take off the keeper on the left and the keeper on the right, which loosened both shoes and I could work with them more. The adjuster for the emergency brake, or I'm sorry, the self-adjusting brakes, that came off pretty easy. There was a small little clip I had to take off, and then some of the other springs popped off, but the adjuster on the bottom, once I got that off, everything started to fall apart. So this is me taking off all of the old brake parts, and then the emergency brake had a small little clip. You can use a screwdriver or needle nose pliers to get that off, and I finally got that off. So I got the shoe disconnected from the emergency brake, and here's where I used $5 worth of brake fluid. I mean, this thing was gunked up and was caked with tons of grease and buildup over the years, and it took a whole can of brake fluid to clean this thing off. I've got my brush, and I'm going to town, and I have to clean not only this wheel assembly, but also got to clean the parts that I plan on reusing. And so I used practically the whole can of brake fluid, and the rest of this video is just me trying to get everything clean. But you don't want to, you don't want to go back and have it all messy and dirty. You want to try to clean things up when you put it on brand new. Keep in mind, I still got to change out the wheel assembly, which is at the top. And then I got to tell you, right about this point, I'm starting to be a little concerned, because I don't know if a picture, I'm going to need something to look at to tell me how to put all these pieces back together. There were so many little pieces that I went and took off the other wheel just so I could go over there and take a look at it. But anyway, that's me preparing to get ready to put everything back together. Taking things apart and, pulling off the old shoes, that's very easy. The hard part's coming up, and that's putting all the pieces back together and all the little springs and the keepers. So we'll pray that goes well. And again, I hope this video is of use to at least one or two people. If nothing else, it's going to be useful for me. Take care and God bless.